went to a bowl game just a year ago. Film room on West Virginia. And although he is no longer on the beat, Corey Geiger will be joining the show as our guest picker. You're listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. Wherever you're listening, please make sure to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, please drop us a like, drop a subscription. Get into the show. Sean, do you want to put your camera up just a smidgen?
Yeah, it's all like jacked for some reason today.
Jack it up. Jack it up.
So you don't feel exhilarated to play Bowling Green?
Not as exhilarated.
It's a want-to-know mentality, man. We're all
That's right.
Every single week, I feel just the same way.
Yeah. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Sean Kane. How you doing today, Sean?
Doing good, Cory. You commented earlier, feeling a tad tired. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm talking to you later in the week. Another day of work.
Thursdays? Is this how you always are on Thursdays? Because I probably wouldn't talk to you as much.
No, I mean, believe me, I'll bring juice for this.
Better bring the juice.
Bring our own juice here.
I will bring the wine yet again.
Nice. Yeah, I
didn't have any yesterday.
Dr. Pepper, so
I'm like, don't make people think I'm like drinking this wine like every night. Just trying to get rid of it at this point. And I thought, what the hell? Why not? We had a good episode last time. We might as well follow up with another wine day today. Why not?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, maybe it's because it's later in the work week. Are you going to watch the NFL tonight?
What time does the game start? Maybe. I don't even know.
8:30, I believe.
I'll probably watch like 30 minutes of it, maybe.
Yeah, Lamar's my fantasy quarterback, so.
I got 3 fantasy teams, and I honestly haven't figured out exactly who is where and what yet. The first week, honestly, I just let it ride. Like,
yeah, that's what you do the first week. You just go with whatever they tell you is gonna.
Yeah, because you have no idea. So yeah, I might have it on for a little bit, but yeah, we'll see.
I have Xavier Worthy on my bench. I just feel like he's gonna go off for like 30 points just first ever game.
I think I have Rice, so I would like to see Rice do well.
Yeah, I was a little afraid about drafting him only because I didn't know if he'd be in jail or not.
I guess that's gonna wait till next year now.
That's what I heard.
So +1 for justice, right?
Yeah, gotta get football out of the way first. And then we'll get to your reckless driving.
That's right. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. This is the show where we talk about Penn State football. If you're new to the show, been around for a couple years now, and this is our 3rd season talking about Penn State football. John, I don't know why today when I was setting up, I kind of just we used to never do the show live, for just so everybody knew that. We used to never do the show live. I will venture to say doing it live, let's just do it live, is a lot harder than people realize. And I want to say we've gotten better at it, but who knows? I was just thinking, though, the other day, I used to literally record in my closet when I was living in that townhouse in Alabama. So we've come a long way from then. Sean, you're in a different place too from when we started.
Yeah, I was still living at home when we started. And then actually right when we started doing the live shows, I moved into the apartment that I'm at now. So yeah, we've both gone through some changes. I mean, we've been doing this a longer time than you realize.
Yeah, it's been great. Just kind of giving you the roadmap of the show today. We're going to jump right into the film room. If you haven't been here before, if you're listening on the podcast, we'll try our best to kind of show what we're seeing. One of the benefits of being on YouTube is you'll see the plays. We'll just go through a couple of them. I'm going to try to choose plays. If you're on X a lot, you've seen some other film breakdowns already. I'm going to try to choose plays that you maybe haven't seen already a bunch. If you don't know, I also do a late night film room breakdown. I did it last night. It's on X right now. Again, I tried to find things that other people maybe didn't find. I found some pretty good gems in there, including Sal Wormley throw one of the West Virginia guys back to the ground. It was fantastic. So I recommend you check that out. There'll be some of those plays that we'll talk about today. From the film room, we'll have our final thoughts on West Virginia. We'll preview Bowling Green. Corey Geiger will join the show, and then he will be our guest picker for the Big Ten games.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay. So without further ado, let's see if this film room still... Okay. See if I can remember how to do this. Okay, perfect. I do. First play here. This is just because we are a part of the Amin Vanover fan club. But it's a great play. I don't know exactly what Neil Brown's thinking on a 3rd and 9 running a really tight bubble screen here. But that's what Neil Brown decides to go with. I think the DBs do a fantastic job. They fight really well here. They're scrappy. Jalen Reed was all over the field. Zakee Wheatley does a good job. A.J. Harris does a good job. But I don't really care about any of that. What I want to point out in this play is, although that they probably would have gotten the ground, what completely stopped the receiver in their tracks was number 15, Amin Vanover, the defensive end. And he's going to start by rushing the quarterback, realize it's a screen pretty early on in the cycle, and then watch him hustle all the way back over and then really make this tackle. This is something we have screamed about Amin Vanover since he started at Penn State, and with limited reps. And we immediately became a huge fan of him, and it hasn't stopped. He's gotten more reps, and yet he continues to hustle across the field no matter what. So I wanted to showcase Amin Vanover here yet again, why he is such a big part of why we are such a big part of his fan club.
Yeah, that's winning football, right? Making hustle plays like that. And that's what you get with Amin Vanover. And you think of an unselfish guy, doesn't have that many starts in his career, but everybody who watches on a weekly basis knows what an important part of this team he is. And also, one of the things I was worried about that I wish I talked about earlier is how good are the corners going to be at tackling. Corners are fine at tackling because we had such good tacklers last year with Hardy, Dixon, and King. These guys are going to be fine. So a lot to like there on that play.
All right, let's go to, and speaking of hustle, I have another really good play that I think really just demonstrates again that Penn State just wanted to be here more, which is not always the case, but I thought this was pretty evident here. So this is the play we talked about a little bit the other day. I guess I just want to preface this by saying Abdul Carter does a great job here of forcing the fumble again. He's not going to get credit for a forced fumble, but I probably think he should, because I really think Garrett Green recovers this if it's not for Abdul Carter hitting him again. Ball comes out, Penn State recovers it. That's great. But I want to slow down right here and pause it and look at wide receiver number 5 at the top of your screen. He is closer than Jalen Reed, who's going to recover this fumble. But watch his lack of effort here. As I continue, he's completely stopped moving because he thinks the play is over. Ball comes out, and Jalen Reed ends up falling on it. 5 tries to get back into the mix at the end, but he's too late. This is just a prime example of Penn State just wanting it more. There's no reason for that receiver to stop until the whistle blows, and yet he completely gives up on a play right there. And then watch the ball sneak out. If he gets there and is by Garrett Green when the ball comes back out, he probably recovers it. And who knows what happens. Just another example of look how many guys are around the ball for Penn State and the lack of guys that are around the ball for West Virginia. I will again shout out to look at Amin Vanover run 30 yards from across the field, and he gets to the pile even before number 5 from West Virginia. So wanted to point that out one more time.
Yeah, and remember, since Manny Diaz was there, one of the things that they emphasize, one of the things that the media would see in their limited availability is going after loose balls. So this is something that if they see a ball on the field, this defense is still swarming. So obviously this is something that Tom Allen is still preaching, be disruptive, create turnovers. And yeah, you have to love the unselfishness from Abdul Carter there. I think that was his best play of the day, and he didn't get any kind of stat from that. But he made it happen.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think this was talked about a decent amount, but I want to bring this up anyway, just because I think it's really important. So this play right here is the best throw that Drew Aller makes the entire day. 2nd and 15, right in the middle of the field, and he throws an absolute laser to Trey Wallace for a first down. Trey Wallace on the out route. The ball is thrown and caught with 5 yards from the sideline. All in all, it's probably about a 40-yard throw in the air on an absolute rope. This to me screams NFL, right? Has the ability to play in the NFL. But further, I think, emphasizes an important thing that we're going to see the rest of the year. I don't expect a single team to sit back and let Drew Aller just pick them apart. Just don't see it happening, because he had a lot of time to throw on Saturday, and he was able to pick apart West Virginia pretty easily, especially to Trey Wallace, who had over 100 yards receiving. Nobody in his face, plenty of time to throw, see the whole field, and he delivers. I think he can do that against anybody. So I fully expect people to blitz and play man coverage and just hope for the best. Otherwise, he has the ability to do this to everybody.
Yeah, and you're right. That's a throw that every quarterback in the NFL needs to be able to make. And the thing is, not every quarterback can make that throw, and it's one of those ones that differentiate you from a guy that could play in the NFL and one that can't. But another important thing with this is we've seen that play before. We ran the out to the sideline a ton last year, and oftentimes it would get broken up, or Drew just wouldn't throw it, and he would look somewhere else, or he'd have to throw it away. And this is just him, looks really confident, steps into the throw, throws it on a rope. It is a tight window, still is able to fit it in, and yeah, thing of beauty.
All righty. Let's see if there's another one. I'll just share this real quick because I think it's a pretty funny thing if I can find it here. Let's see if I can find Sal Wormley. I think it's this one right here. Watch Sal Wormley here, 77 at the top of your screen, just pushing that guy back down. I love this. There's been multiple times now where Sal Wormley has popped off the screen for me for like intangible things like that. Not even his guy. And he goes back and says pretty much stay on the ground. He has a mean streak to him, and we've seen that. And I just love that, right? We're dominating you, and we're gonna basically make sure you know it. That kind of attitude is kind of what you need along the offensive line, and it's harder to instill an offensive lineman than defensive lineman. So when you have it, you need to really praise it, because that's the kind of guy I want blocking for my 5-star quarterback and my 5-star running back. So just a little nugget there, but I love it.
Yeah, me too. I thought the interior of the offensive line had a chance to be better than last year's because they get everybody except Hunter Norzat back, and I was assuming there wouldn't be that big of a drop off between him and Nick Dawkins. So far, we've only had one game, so a small sample size. I haven't seen a drop off. But you have all that experience coming back, and that's Sal Wormley, basically a grown man because he's been here so long, doing grown man things and just sunning that poor child.
So I do need to make a correction. This will be the last one we show. As Cowboy Ribeye says, we're so back. Yes, we are, baby. Yes, we are. This will be the last one I show today. On the episode on Tuesday, I made the claim that Aller had to scramble because West Virginia was in man coverage and because nobody was getting open. This is that play that I was referring to. However, his other big scrambles did happen against zone. So I wanted to correct myself there. Um, the other two big runs that he had were against zone. This is the only one where West Virginia was playing man coverage. And although I don't have the all 11 angle, I don't think anybody really gets open here. And so now the pressure also gets home pretty quickly. And I appreciate his athleticism to get out, create, and get the first down. That's all fantastic. I don't want to undermine that at all. But as you see Julian Fleming trying to come across the field there, this is something, I'm not going to say it's a red flag, but this is something to keep in mind against good, better defenses with more athletes in the backfield, specifically Ohio State, where wide receivers maybe can't get open. Will Drew Aller still be able to escape this pocket against 5-star defensive ends and linebackers? I'm not so sure. But to me, if I'm a defense, that's probably what I'm going to do. Line up, cover one, man coverage, maybe even a robber over the middle to take away the easy stuff and say, can you block long enough and can your receivers get open and beat us? So that's my thought. I don't want to make this a big deal, but it is something to kind of keep in mind. Drew Aller does a great job on this play, but is this something that can be repeatable throughout the entire season? Do you want to live and die by this? I'm not quite sure yet.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I would assume the guy up top of the screen that we can't see probably doesn't get open. It looks like he's running a deeper route. And Drew was under pressure, so he even if he does get open, he's got to make a decision, and no one's really open underneath. But I mean, to take the positive spin, like you said, Drew gets first down here. So that's what we'll remember. And I don't think West Virginia has an unathletic defense per se, but yeah, there's a difference between playing West Virginia, playing Ohio State. And there's really no way to deny that.
Exactly.
Do you think West Virginia has a better defense than USC?
No, not from an athlete perspective.
I don't think so either. But yeah, I mean, I got to see more from SC. I got to see more from LSU too, because I'm not entirely sure how good LSU is. Of course, Paul Feinbaum and the SEC brigade all circled the wagons, and they were, the usual thing when a bunch of Yankees beat them. Oh, well, LSU would be they're the sixth best team in the SEC, so who cares? But
that's right.
But I don't know. They always say that whenever a northern team beats them.
Are you considering USC a northern team?
And ironically, yeah, they're like right on the border of Mexico, but I think they're Big Ten.
Okay, they're Big Ten team. Okay, fair enough. I don't think LSU's offense is very good. I will say that.
That's true too. And it's Brian Kelly in a big game.
Yes. Didn't something happen with him and a kid one time? Anyway.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on West Virginia, Penn State, Sean. Anything that you want to get off your chest? I will say this. Penn State had 2 pass plays over 50 yards. They had 5 the entire season last year. So moving in the right direction. I'm still in the camp of want to see repeatability. I will mention, a lot of people just kind of throw away these games, the Bowling Greens, the Kent States of the world. We learned a lot in hindsight from when Penn State played Delaware. 2 years ago, Sean, who did we play where we could barely run the ball?
Villanova.
Couldn't
pick up a yard.
Huge red flag in that game. In hindsight, the Delaware game, when we weren't able to have explosive plays, now Delaware played really sound defense. I still will kind of die on that hill. We still should have explosive plays at Delaware. We didn't.
Yes.
In the end, ended up being a red flag. So the last 2 seasons, a red flag has come out of a game in September. I'm not saying that there's going to be something inherently wrong with this team that we find out versus Bowling Green on Saturday, but there is value and there are trends we are going to find coming out of this game.
Yeah, definitely. You get something out of every game. Like every game, the coach does break down film. He does grade film. They don't just go, all right, well, we played Bowling Green, we can't learn anything. Like, no, that's not the way they approach it. And that's really, as fans, we really shouldn't be like that either. Now, you do have to take things in perspective. If we run wild on Saturday, don't think, well, that means we're ready to win the Natty. Not necessarily. It is still Bowling Green, but um, they do have they could give a team, and I think Delaware sort of, in a weird way, sort of did this last year. Give teams a blueprint, and Delaware didn't have the athletes to stick with us, but they just took the runaway. Made Gireller beat them. Now Gireller was able to beat Delaware. We were able to beat them through the passing game, um, partly because they limited the run. So that's what teams used on us from that game all the way to Ole Miss. So, and we won some and lost to the better teams that we played. So, final thoughts for me. I think Andy Kotelnicki showed you that being a quote unquote offensive genius isn't about just having a million different plays or being, trying to reinvent the wheel. That's really not what it's supposed to be like. And I think there are some coordinators that tend to love they love that idea of being the mad scientist. And when they're the mad scientist, it could kind of interfere with reality, and they want to do all these crazy things when really you don't. Now, Kotelnicki would give you different looks, but really what we were doing wasn't that complicated. It was just getting your athletes in the right position to succeed. We ran more counter with Nick Singleton. It wasn't just all inside zone like it was last season, where we're just running up the middle with them constantly. It was getting Bo Prabula on the field. Again, Bo Prabula is one of your best athletes. Yeah, find a way to get him on the field. We did that. Did it always work? No. But eventually it did lead to a touchdown. So that's really what being good on offense and being a good play caller is all about, is just getting your athletes in the best position to succeed. And some people just don't understand that.
Yeah, and Cowboy Ribeye did correct me. Villanova was in 2021, not in 2022. But he says the point stands regardless. I appreciate that. Cowboy Ribeye always here to help me get through the podcast, because I'm typically not factually wrong, but I'm usually factually bending the truth quite a bit. I agree with you. I think your point about offense coordinators is spot on, right? People, it's like with any job, right? If you sit at the computer all day and work on PowerPoint, like, you're not going to tell somebody that all you did all day was PowerPoint, because you learn how to do PowerPoint in the 6th grade. You're going to try to make it seem like, oh, I'm consulting with my customers. You're on PowerPoint.
The old resume builder.
Right. And there are coordinators that eat that up. So I think you nailed that completely. I don't have many other thoughts from this. I think we have squeezed all we can out of this game. At the end of the day, we got to remember it's just one game, and as great as it is just one game. And so now the thing is, can they, like you always like to say, improve from week 1 to week 2? But I am looking ahead. Can they look good enough where I'm like, oh yeah, I predicted way wrong on my 9-3. They're going to go in there and spank USC. And I think the only way they really do that is if we see consistency throughout this next month. And I don't have any reasons why they wouldn't be able to, but that's what we're looking to see. So I don't think I have any other final thoughts. I think we've beat this horse dead.
Pronounced dead at
7:25
on Thursday.
That's right.
West Virginia horse.
Again, we are live typically every Monday and Wednesday. Labor Day, we moved everything back a week, but you can catch us live on YouTube. State Media is the YouTube channel. Bowling Green, Sean. Let's make the transition to Bowling Green.
I thought you would make the title Bowling for Soup or something.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, because you could do a lot with that title.
I don't know if, like, is Bowling for Soup besides the band? Is that an expression of any kind? Like, oh yeah, like Cory had a really tough day yesterday. He's bowling for soup.
I don't think so. I think it's
Okay.
just a band name.
Okay.
Very good band name, but
It is a good band name. I didn't know, like, I didn't want there to be some meaning that I wasn't aware of, and I didn't feel like Googling it because I was thinking of that. But I'm like, watch Bowling for Soup mean like you're picking up hookers or something like that.
or
I
we
have no
would have
idea.
Bowling for Soup coming after us for copyright.
That's probably
All of a
true
sudden
as well.
the video's taken down.
Yeah, that would also happen to us. So, anyway, went with a different title because of those reasons. But I was thinking about it. Bowling Green. SP Plus, I think, has them at like 94, which, if you're wondering, is not the worst team Penn State will face. That will come the way of Kent State in 2 weeks. But Bowling Green, Connor Bazelak's their quarterback. We have talked about Connor Bazelak before, Sean. Back when I did those little previews before the season started, I actually talked about Connor Bazelak even more. Quarterback for Indiana, originally transferred from Missouri and played a little bit at Indiana. Now is at Bowling Green. He's going to end up with like a lot of passing yards in his career when it's done. He was always a good passer from the standpoint of yardage. Had some interception issues for a while there. And that was kind of the big knock on him. The other thing I'll just say, Sean, I'm sure you're going to hit on this. Who's our defensive coordinator? Tom Allen. Tom Allen had Connor Bazelak as his quarterback when he was at Indiana. That is I would say it's a huge advantage, but A&M and Mike Elko had Riley Leonard as his quarterback, who's now at Notre Dame, and A&M still couldn't beat Riley Leonard. So I think it's an advantage, but A&M at home wasn't able to do anything about it. So who knows?
Yeah, A&M basically had no quarterback, though. So
that's true.
That was part of the problem there. They played awful.
Someone said that guy like could have played baseball at A&M. Probably should have just stuck to baseball.
Probably should have. But he was a highly recruited quarterback out of high school. And I think a lot of these guys, everybody thinks they're going to be Trevor Lawrence and get up, and the Brinks truck is just going to back in. But baseball, I don't know. I don't know if it's more of a sure bet, but because it is hard to make the majors. But God, that was tough to watch. But yeah, Bazelak has been around a while. I think whenever you play against an experienced guy like that, you have to take that into account. He's also been in the Big Ten. He's been in the SEC, so he's not going to be intimidated by playing at the Beeve. Played okay last week, 15-22 for $168. No touchdowns, no interceptions, but he really didn't need to throw too many touchdowns because they ran the ball so well. And that Terrion Stewart had 3 touchdowns and over 140 yards on the ground last week against Fordham. So seems to be the guy that I'm most worried about on that offense.
Yeah, so Terrion is probably the correct way to say it. I just really want it to be Tyrion, and then if you're a Game of Thrones fan out there, you would know. But he's probably taller than Tyrion Lannister, for all you nerds out there. One thing about Terrion Stewart, he forced 11 missed tackles against Fordham last week, which is just insanely impressive because I think Nick Singleton last year, I think officially had like 4 or 5, technically the whole year. So 11 is like insane because you can make somebody miss, but to get something in that stat category, it's very, well, let's just say it's very subjective. Is that the right word? Subjective?
Yeah, I mean, that's very, very impressive. Even against Fordham, that's still really impressive because like these guys at Fordham are still really good football players. Mm-hmm. So to be able to break that many tackles, that wine's disagreeing with you.
Yeah, that wine, that was a little vinegary on that one. No, I was thinking about Jomo, the Fighting Jomos, when you were talking about Fordham.
Oh yeah, Jomo did come from there. Good. They had a bit of a rough week playing the Buckeyes, but
Hey,
but
they
anyway,
covered. They covered.
Did they cover?
I told you they'd cover. They covered.
Well, Jomo is now 2-2 against Ohio State.
Kind of, I guess. If you want to put it
Well,
that way. They play Rutgers this week.
Yeah, I think Rutgers is pretty good. So
I have Rutgers covering. Yeah, by the way, Cory _Lestochi, been dropping my bets over there if you would have listened to me last week. I think we went 6 for 8. No, we didn't do that well. We did pretty well, though, whatever it ended up being. I think we missed 3 or 4.
as long as you break even.
No, we were above even. We were above even.
Good.
Yeah, we were definitely above even. Also, I think most of Stewart's yards came after contact. I think if he's not leading, he's very close to leading the country in yards after contact. So as far as you think you can come in here and just, as a Penn State player, go through the motions and arm tackle? No, not so fast, my friend. Stewart's going to make you wrap up, say it with your chest.
Yeah, that's be a good challenge. Tackling. I do think this team, especially for week 1, talk about Penn State, I do think we tackle really, really well, especially for week 1, because that's a common thing you see, because at summer practices anymore, they're still just doing thud. And what that means is you hit the guy, but you don't take him to the ground. So you're not really even allowed to really tackle all that much. So a lot of times when you first play a game, you see a lot of missed tackles. We didn't really see that last week, but a guy like Terrion Stewart is going to give you a test with that. And I'm hoping that the linebackers continue the trend of mostly good tackling.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't show the Tyler Elsdon play because I was trying to be nice about it, but Tyler Elsdon did miss a tackle in the hole, just for it to be on record.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, Tony Rojas missed a tackle too. I mean, they do happen, but you just want to limit it as much as possible.
Okay, we talked about Stewart. Justin Pegues did have a 100-yard kick return for a touchdown against Fordham. Pulled this stat from Sports Illustrated. Penn State is not allowed, and this is huge, major knock on wood here. Penn State has not allowed a special teams touchdown. And do you want to take a guess, Sean, how many games?
Oh, God, it's been a long time. Because we love to kick the ball in the end zone. I'm going to say the last time they did it.
I think I know the last time it happened, but I'm not.
It might be 2016. I think Maryland had a kick return for a touchdown.
I don't know. All I know is the number of games. I don't know where it would put it at. 62 games.
Okay, so it was more. It had to be more recent than
if you do 62 divided by 13-ish, it still would put it about 4 seasons ago-ish.
Must have been during 2020 where
I'm thinking, did we play Nebraska? We played Nebraska in 2020, but I don't think that was it. I know, didn't Nebraska take a kick return back against us? But that might have been way earlier than I'm thinking. That might have been.
Yeah, generally I try to block the whole 2020.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Sean? Did we lose Sean? Cowboy Ribeye says, did you see the opening kick for the Bowling Green in Fordham? Hilarious. No, I did not see that it was hilarious. Did we lose Sean? I'm gonna text Sean here.
Season out of my mind.
Oh, wait. We lost you, Sean, big time. Now you're frozen again. It's nice that it's your Wi-Fi for once and not my Wi-Fi. All right. While Sean tries to come back to life, I'm going to keep going here. But again, that stat was 62 games since Penn State has allowed a special teams touchdown. So we'll see if that happens. Hopefully not. I will note the weather, 80% chance of rain. It is looking like most of that weather is going to happen before the game. I think it's going to clear up in the afternoon. We'll see if that's true.
You hear me?
Hopefully that's the case. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, we're good again.
All right. Yeah, sorry.
All I said while you were gone was I talked about the weather. That's it.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be crappy.
Yeah, early on might clear up in the afternoon. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully it does.
What were you saying? Because we missed. Trying to remember the last thing you said was, but
were we still talking about the kick return?
Yeah, you said something about it, and I don't remember who. I know it wasn't.
Yeah, I try to block the whole 2020 season out of my mind.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who it would have been. I don't think it was anybody like good. Like I don't think it was like a Ohio State or Michigan.
Was it Iowa?
In what, 2021?
No, would it be 2021? Well, I don't know. Could have been.
I feel like it wasn't at home, but maybe it was.
It could have been against somebody in 2021.
Somebody like watching on YouTube wants to tell us who and when the last team to score a special teams touchdown on Penn State was. That'd be great. And it's special teams. It doesn't say kick return. So was it a punt return? Was it a punt block? Was it some? I don't think Penn State's had a punt blocked against them for a long time. They've had one go over their head, but I don't remember the last time one was actually truly blocked. So, Cowboy Rib, I'm going to charge you a hold of that. Sean, was there something else that you were saying while we lost you there for a second?
Yeah, it was just that I blocked the whole 2020 season.
Okay.
So yeah, nothing too interesting. You could always count back from 62.
Yeah, someone started doing that. By the time we have Corey Geiger on the show and everything else, we should have the answer.
Yeah. So what are you looking to see from us this week specifically?
Well, Bowling Green gives up 401 yards of offense to Fordham last week. So I would kind of like to see Penn State put up more than 400 yards of offense just to start.
I think that happens. Based on, and one of the things with James Franklin in particular, we did the good thing about the 1-0 mentality, and sometimes, we poke fun at it a little bit, but I understand it. Because it doesn't lead to too many letdowns. I believe the last out of conference team we lost outside of bowl games was Pitt in 2016, and
is that really it?
I think so. I mean, granted, we haven't really played Murderers Row. I understand, but that's a long time ago. That's a lot of football games, and to continue to just beat teams. And I mean, we've beaten Auburn, we've beaten West Virginia. I know neither of them were awesome, but still, like, we just went to Morgantown and kicked West Virginia's ass, and half the talking heads on the pregame shows picked West Virginia to beat Penn State. So I like this revisionist history that I've been seeing with some West Virginia fans on Twitter. Well, you guys were supposed to beat us, and all right, well, Vegas said so, but a lot of you guys, every West Virginia fan I saw, and then a lot of the so-called experts were picking Penn State to West Virginia to beat Penn State. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like we've just been playing a bunch of nobodies, but
played on the road, right? Played on the road against Auburn, like that definitely is worth something.
Yeah, we kept hearing about how we'll never be able to go down south and beat Auburn. Well, it was over by the beginning of the third quarter. So
we're really hitting on like the South today, aren't we?
Yeah. But that's really what you heard. And so it's definitely an advantage of the 1-0 mentality. And hey, look at the past 2 years just in general. Penn State lost to the team that won the title last year, and they lost to Ohio State, and then they lost to Michigan and Ohio State again 2 years ago. And I don't think anybody's been as upset as me about constantly losing to those teams. But you do have to say something for consistently beating the teams that you're supposed to beat, not having these letdowns that you see all over the country, basically every week. You see letdowns.
No, you're absolutely right about that, right? You're absolutely right about that. As far as like realistically things I want to see, I mean, it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of the young guys to play. Sean, I'm going to probably steal your thunder here and say that I would like to see Quentin Martin play. I think that's probably something you'd want to see. A lot of hype about in the summer about Tysier Denmark. Didn't see him. Will we see him this month? I would assume we probably will. What comes of that? I would like to kind of see that going on. Khalil Dinkins practice this week.
Yes.
Honestly, I don't see why you play him if he's kind of questionable, to be honest with you. But do we see Khalil Dinkins back in the lineup? Perhaps. Caden Saunders, who did go out there basically to field punts and not play on offense, he is now a little bit more healthy. Do we get to see him involved in the offense a little bit more? And if he is healthy, given the fact that we know now that he wasn't going to play offense regardless because he wasn't there yet, where is he in that lineup? Is he before Clifford? Is he after Fleming? Kind of curious where that ends up falling because he didn't play offense. Like he wasn't part of the wide receiver depth chart. Where is he on that depth chart? So, and then I guess the final thing, Sean, that I'd like to see, not that I'm as concerned about it as other folks are. I would like to see a couple more wide receivers maybe get involved, or at least more targets to them. I'm not freaking out about it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, besides Trey Wallace and Omari Evans, they didn't throw a ball to the receiver. Well, again, how many receivers would make you happy?
Yeah.
Like they throw it to one more, then you're like, oh, okay, forget about it. We're good now.
Yeah.
Like I'm not overly concerned about it, but just for the sake of Trey Wallace has had issues staying healthy, I would like to see other guys get involved. Maybe some more consistency from Omari Evans. Although Aller has a better throw on one of those dig routes, he probably has another catch and run. But I would like to see Caden Saunders grab a snag or two, Liam Clifford get a snag or two, Tysier Denmark get a snag or two, Omari Evans to be a little bit more involved. But realistically, I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah, I think with Caden Saunders, I think they just told him go in and fair catch everything. Which tells me he wasn't healthy, and we know for a fact he's had the dreaded bumps and bruises diagnosis from James Franklin. But yeah, I think that's fair to say you want more receivers involved. I do think some of the people freaking out, after Penn State's offense played better than most people thought, it's a little bit besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I mean, we did fine. We ran the ball great, and Drew Aller only had to throw 16 or 17 passes. So
I love that line.
Yes, that's one you'll hear. The old heads will know that one from me. I pull that one out every now and then.
So Cowboy Ribeye gave us the answer. Thank you, Cowboy. He's basically our stats and research now at this point. September 6th. Nope. Bowl game, Kentucky, Lynn Bowden Jr. Did I say, was he a junior? Lynn Bowden, punt return for a touchdown.
Lynn, I don't even remember that. That's another game I try to block out of my head too.
Yeah. Besides Pat Fryermuth doing some good things, was that Pat? Yeah. Besides that, we didn't have much else. Oh, looks like we might have a guest here.
Oh.
Maybe. Uh-oh. This could be a problem here. Why am I huge?
Guest user has entered. Hello, Cory.
What is happening, fellas?
How's it going? What did you think of Saturday?
Oh, man, I loved it. I thought the creativity on offense was exactly what I wanted to see. The play designs, the schemes, the usage of personnel. I'm an offense guy, in case nobody knew that. I wanted to see the offense check a lot of boxes. I thought Andy Kotelnicki really did a good job.
Yeah, one of the reasons I was concerned about the game itself is breaking in, 3 new coordinators, but especially breaking in those offensive and defensive coordinators. Like, I think of the 2022 game against Purdue, the defense didn't play particularly well in Manny's first game. And Tom Allen, we were ready from jump to, they were ready to go, and holding a run heavy team to not much at all. And Garrett Green had way less yards on the ground than Drew Aller. I think that surprised me maybe the most.
Yeah, really, if you think about it, it's as good of an opener as you could ask for if you're a Penn State fan. I'm sure you guys have talked about it. Now it's time to overreact. Penn State's going to win the national championship. They're going to destroy everybody. So we have to be a little careful with that because I thought West Virginia was terrible. Dude, I thought that team was awful. Seriously, Neil Brown was very critical of his team, and rightfully so. Their play calling. I mean, who do they think they are? Michigan? Running the ball right up the gut on 4th and 1. I mean, come on now. That's not going to work against Penn State. So, but look, give Penn State a lot of credit. They played very, very well. The defense is going to be good. If the offense is good, then this could be a really special season.
Hey, Cory, if you do me a favor, is there any way you can tilt your camera or your computer just down? There we go. That's much better. No,
that way better?
Oh, yeah, that's much better. Your head is dropping out on me a little bit. Perfect.
All right, very good.
Thanks for joining the show. I mean, you're technically not on the beat anymore. What have you been up to?
Well, I'm not writing, but I still have a daily radio show here. I talk Penn State every day. I still contend I talk more Penn State than any beaten writer probably out there, except for maybe some of the guys like T. Frank or something that do like daily webcasts. So I'm still very much following everything that's going on, and so that's that part of it. But I guess I'm probably semi-retired, maybe as a writer. I've had a lot of opportunities come my way since DK Pittsburgh Sports stopped covering Penn State. But you know what, guys? I got 12-year-old kids. I'm loving life. I'm 50 years old. I'm enjoying living a normal life as opposed to you guys. You do this podcast. I mean, think how much work goes into this. So I'm thoroughly enjoying some of the time off.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. I'm just curious, Cory, now that you're not on the beat, you can give us all the secrets, right? But what were you looking for in a stretch that like Penn State has coming up where you kind of have some teams that you're not really worried about the outcome, but as a reporter, are there things that you're trying to pick up on that are like, okay, Penn State's going to win the game? I can have my, basically my article written at halftime. What were things that you were trying to pick out for the Bowling Greens, the Kent States of the world?
Kick their ass thoroughly from start to finish. Don't screw around. Don't have 3 series in a row where you go 3 and out and look mediocre. Yeah, come on, destroy these teams. I mean, that's what you're looking for when you're a 35-point favorite. And hey, I've covered so many games over the years where you knew the outcome beforehand. You just had to kind of plug in the final score. And there had been a lot of Penn State games. You guys know this. There have been a lot of Penn State games for 20, 30 years where maybe they let a team hang around a little more than they should. No, come out and wipe the floor with these people. Look great from start to finish. The one kind of criticism you have of this coaching staff since day one, James Franklin and his staff have always been phenomenal at halftime adjustments. Whatever happens in the first half, they come out in the second half and they're kind of a different team and they just start crushing people. I want to see that from play one. If you're going to win a national championship, because we have to start looking at everything from a completely different dynamic now. You're trying to win a national championship. Yes, you got to get into the playoff, but then you got to beat teams that are really good. Are you ready to play from play one? Quite frankly, I thought they looked pretty poor offensively in the first quarter against West Virginia. But then when James saw they had things under control defensively, whether it was just coincidence or, hey, let's kick this into gear now, that's when they really started to look good in the second quarter. Well, if you're going to play Georgia, if you're going to play Ohio State, if you're going to play Texas, which I think are the 3 best teams in the country, and then there's a big drop-off maybe to everybody else, you better be ready to go from play one.
Yeah, that was a big problem last year, right? Like, Penn State never got off to a fast start, maybe since the West Virginia game from last season. And while I think the offense played and certainly defense played a lot better than they did last season against West Virginia, yeah, I mean, you're going to want to get off to a quicker start, but maybe new offensive coordinator, maybe they will. So you interacted with Andy Kotelnicki a little bit when you were still on the beat. difference in personality between him and Mike Yurcich. I mean, what could you say about that?
I don't want to feel like, we're just kind of kicking the guy who's already out the door. I just always got the sense that Mike Yurcich was an incredibly arrogant guy, that anything he thinks he can do, he's going to be really arrogant that it's going to work. And it worked in the Big 12 where they don't play any damn defense. It didn't work in the Big 10. Now, look, I'll give Mike Yurcich maybe a little more credit than some others. I thought at times he did a good job. I think James Franklin kind of forced some things on Mike that ended up working, forcing using the tight ends. Mike Yurcich didn't want to use the tight ends as much as he ended up doing at Penn State. So James Franklin, that actually helped. But I don't think Mike Yurcich wanted to run the ball and be a time of possession offensive coordinator like they were last year. So that's not necessarily. So I think Andy is just a different. He's just a different cat. He's going to be thinking outside the box from play one, doing all kinds of different things. Having linemen go in motion, for God's sake. I just think that there's so much talent all over the field for Penn State. Let the guys have fun. Let them do what they do. Put them in situations to succeed. Come out and kick some ass. All right. Again, this is my big beef with James Franklin, because I think that in the first quarter of games, he's feeling out games all the time and not necessarily coming out guns a-blazing all the time. And that's fine to go 10-2. You're not going to beat Michigan or Ohio State that way. You're not going to beat Georgia that way, or you're not going to beat Texas that way. So what we saw in the second quarter, come out, have fun, throw caution to the wind. I know a lot of people disagree with this. I loved the 2-point conversion try. I loved it, or at least attempt. They didn't succeed. I know a lot of Penn State fans hated it, but James knew he had control of that game defensively. So it was like, hey, let's go ahead and try it. Well, you got to do that from the beginning. So whether that's Andy Kotelnicki being allowed to do that from play one, or if that's James Franklin feeling his way into games, they got a lot of season to figure this stuff out.
For the sake of starting early, Bowling Green started early against Fordham, for whatever that's worth. 20 points in the first quarter, including a kick return for a touchdown. So maybe Bowling Green gives Penn State a little bit of run for the money there for a second. I am curious how much of that feeling them out on the road at West Virginia. You're a better team, so it's more of like, let's not give them something cheap early.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then at that point, it was like, okay. Once we saw probably about 3 or 4 drives from Garrett Green, it was pretty clear that West Virginia wasn't going to score more than 15 points or so. I mean, there was just no way that was going to happen.
And here's the discussion. This is always the discussion. Penn State is really, 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 really good. We know they're really good. The margins we're talking about here are so slim. People look at me and say, Geiger, you're pretty critical of Penn State. I'm really not. I'll sit here and tell you, I think Penn State's really good. So come out and be really good right away. All right. If you feel like you need to feel out games, fine. You're going to beat 90% of the teams that way until you run into teams that have equal talent to you. And this is the issue. This is the single biggest issue and will always be the single biggest issue for James Franklin in big games. Is he ready to come out guns a-blazing from play one instead of waiting till halftime to make adjustments? And so any Penn State fans out there who just want to say, Guy, you're just hating on Penn State, you're being critical. This is the reality. This is the way. Even Pitt in 2016, they got down huge. They almost came back to win the game. Deshaun dropped the ball. Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, they got down huge, came back and won that game. USC, all over the place, crazy game. Penn State has shown a lot of history of, we're going to come out, we're going to feel out things, and then we're going to let our talent be better over 4 quarters. That's fine if you want to just get to the playoff. And if that's all Penn State fans want, to just get to the playoff every single year, keep playing that way. But when you run into teams with equal or better talent, and there aren't many, you have to play a full 4 quarters of football and be ready to go toe-to-toe with Georgia or Ohio State from the opening snap and not be trying to feel things out. I know I'm preaching here a little bit, but this is where Penn State is. It is a tremendous, tremendous football program that until it figures out the very tiny margins, it's not going to get over that hump.
John, you want to rebuttal or say anything extra to that?
Hey, I mean, I've been saying similar things since really the Michigan game last season. I mean, I was just so mad after the Michigan game because it was just like, here we go again. And but the thing is, and then you get into the people who don't know the difference between 8-4, 7-5, which we've all experienced, and 10-2, and there is a difference. But I think the problem Penn State fans are running into right now, and the reason the Fire Franklin Brigade is out there just waiting in the wings, is because people in general don't like feeling stagnant. And sometimes you do feel stagnant with this football program. And I mean, I don't really want to think about it right now because we're 1-0 and look pretty good on Saturday, but it is in the back of your mind. And I think if they could go out to USC, who I think is a good team, get a big win on the road, man, that could really set them up because they basically punched their ticket to the playoff. Maybe they beat Ohio State, maybe they don't, but you're in, essentially, because they're not going to, I don't think they'll lose to the rest of those teams if they could go beat USC.
Corey, do you agree that as far as USC being the barometer for before you make any decision on whether or not this team is any better than the last couple? USC is kind of that test.
Sure, because you're not going to play anybody until then. I mean, Illinois will give you a tough physical battle, but Penn State's better than them. I don't think UCLA is going to be any good at all in the Big Ten. I think that program is really going to struggle with the transition to the Big Ten. So yeah, sure. You go to Los Angeles, you fly across the country, they're going to have good talent. Now, again, it's hard for me to ever pick a team to beat Penn State unless I feel like that team can line up physically with Penn State for 4 quarters on both sides of the ball. And quite frankly, I don't think USC is going to be able to do that either. I've got them going 10-2, and as of right now, I think the second loss is Wisconsin. Now, not to say that I think Wisconsin's great, but you got to go there. They are a program that you think can physically match up with Penn State. So 11-1, 10-2, whatever the case might be, if you take a look at what Penn State is and can be, yeah, that USC game will be a giant barometer. I'm going to pick them to win that game most likely unless something goes wrong or there's injuries. Because, again, I think USC and Oregon, I think all of these teams, especially UCLA, they're just going to be in for an eye-opening experience playing Big Ten teams every week. Yeah, sure, you're going to beat Northwestern. You're going to beat Rutgers. You're going to beat, maybe the Iowas of the world. But what they're going to do? They're going to come out and punch you in the mouth. And they might injure one of your players, or they're going to hurt one of your players 10%. So by the time you get in the middle of the season, Penn State isn't playing these teams at 100% strength. They're playing these teams where a lot of their players are at 90% strength.
Yeah, and I'm curious specifically for the Oregons and USCs to see what they look like, because you could, go on the road in the Big Ten in November against a Minnesota caliber team, and it's a completely different situation than going on the road at Arizona State in the middle of November.
There's no question. I'm trying to pull it up. I had it earlier when I was doing my radio show. I think USC, before playing Penn State, plays Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, I believe. I'm trying to pull it up here as we speak. But that's the 3 or 4 games before play Penn State. So let's see. They go USC plays at Michigan, home against Wisconsin, at Minnesota. So is USC, are they going to be healthy for that game? My guess is no. They're not going to be. Even if they win those games, they're going to be worse for wear playing these Big Ten teams. That's what Penn State learned starting in 1993. And sure, 94 was awesome, but for the last 30 years, Penn State has realized that from week to week to week to week to week in the Big Ten is very, very challenging. So that's what these teams are really going to figure out in a hurry.
Yeah, and I think there's a perception about the Big Ten nationally that they're big, unathletic, slow. Some truth to it, but it's a physical conference. I mean,
Yeah.
it outside of the SEC, it gets you ready for the NFL more than any of them. And your point about depth is a good one. And one of the things I am concerned about with this team is depth at certain positions. Certain positions were fine. Most of them were fine. But linebacker, even edge, there's some concerns there. And I've seen teams I always think of the Ohio State game in 2017. And I swear if Ryan Buchholz was healthy the whole game, Penn State wins that game. But as soon as he went down, Ohio State's offense just opened up. And that is something that I do worry about with this team specifically.
I think that's really fair. But then you have to take a look at the schedule, and you kind of have to play that game of who on the schedule is going to take advantage of that. And again, this next month should be a cakewalk. USC, can they match up physically? Wisconsin, Ohio State. And beyond that, there's no Michigan. And the rest of these teams, I don't know that they really can match up physically. I kind of think maybe a late season game at Minnesota. Minnesota's a program. They are kind of a physical program, but not always as talented. But the bottom line is it's not like Penn State's facing a ton of great offensive teams week in and week out. I mean, think about that. So, it's long been
quarterbacks.
Exactly. It's long been said about the Big Ten with quarterbacks. It's kind of changed a little bit in recent years. But Kerry Collins was the last number one draft pick or first round draft pick in the Big Ten for like some 20-something, 30 years or whatever. So you're not facing superstars week in and week out on offense. And so I think your point is a good one, Sean, about Penn State's defense with some of the – I do still think there are some concerns at the linebacker spots. But I just think the defense is going to be plenty good enough. And even if they're not great like they were last year under Manny, if we continue to see what we saw with the creativity from Andy Kotelnick in the first game, that checked a lot of the boxes for me. Let him do what he does. If James Franklin lets him have freedom like he did with Joe Moorhead in 2016, not handcuff him like he did with Kirk Shiraka and maybe even to a degree Mike Yurcich. Hey, let him have fun. You got a potential first-round quarterback. You got two fantastic running backs. Let's see what they can do.
All right, well, let's see what you can do in our Big Ten Pick'em this week. You're pretty lucky. You got some pretty easy Pick'em games. We're going to run through these. These are all straight up who you think is going to win. At the very end, there will be one opportunity for bonus points where you'll pick a spread. But all these other ones are going to be straight up. We'll start with Western Illinois at Indiana, assuming you're going to go with the Hoosiers.
Yeah, Indiana.
Sean, you as well?
Hoosier Daddy, yes.
I don't know how many games Indiana's going to win, but I think they're going to win that one. Battle of the Brainiacs here. Duke at Northwestern. They played last year. I want to say Northwestern won that last year. Northwestern's not playing in Ryan Field. They got their temporary stadium there. What do you think of this game? Manny Diaz and company going to Northwestern.
I'm going to go with Manny. I just have a lot of respect for Manny. It'll be a tough game. I'm going to go with Manny until things start to go wrong down there.
I think I may have literally flipped a coin when I did my pick'em, and I'm going with Northwestern.
Wow,
but I hope Duke wins because
the Duke defense looked just like a Manny Diaz defense as far as forcing fumbles and getting a lot of TFLs. Okay, this is a big one. Texas at Michigan. I think Texas right now is like a 7.5 point favorite. Michigan looking like they may have some quarterback problems there. Sean, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I actually happened to watch the Big Ten in 60 at my parents' house last night of the Michigan game, and their defense is still really, really good. But you're not going to beat a team like that with subpar quarterback play, even at home. I think their defense keeps them in it. They may cover, but I think Texas just has too much for them.
Yeah, I agree with all that. The 7.5, take that hook. I would definitely be on Michigan at plus 7.5 at home, but I think Texas just has. I am putting them into tiers. I think Ohio State and Georgia are really 1 and 1A. Texas would be slightly there. And then I think there's a pretty big drop to everybody. But Texas has a quarterback. So even going to the big house, which is tough, I'm still going to take Texas.
Okay. I'm assuming we're all on Rhode Island to lose to Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Minnesota.
Jomo and Akron going on the road to Rutgers. Any chance Moorhead and his team can pull an upset?
Nope.
I don't think so either. I think Rutgers is a pretty good team this year.
I think Rutgers is better than usual.
He's just a good coach. He's rubbed some people the wrong way in the past, college and the NFL, but he is a damn good football coach.
Yep.
We'll go to Iowa. Iowa State at Iowa. Iowa put up some points in their first game. Corey, what are your thoughts here?
Oh man, this was tough. We were talking about this on my radio show just a few hours ago because this is like that. Iowa State's kind of their Super Bowl always. I'm picking Iowa because it's in Iowa City, but that's a fun rivalry. It really is. I don't know a lot about the history of the rivalry. I just know every game is crazy and it means a lot to all those folks. So it's kind of a coin flip game for me, but I'll go Hawkeyes.
Yeah, it seems like it's always a one max 2 score game. Yeah,
yeah.
It's one of those you always throw the records out. I would go with Iowa for the reasons Corey stated. It's at home, and I gotta imagine Iowa's offense is better because they were so bad last year. You could only go up, so I'll take the Hawkeyes.
I'm going with the Cyclones. I think Iowa State is a dark horse to win the Big 12. I like Iowa State there.
And Corey Lestochi despises the Iowa Hawkeyes.
And
so
I also don't
keep
really.
that in mind.
It's not hard to pick against them. First Big Ten game of the year: Michigan State at Maryland. Sean, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm going Terps. I think I watched the Michigan State game on that Friday night. Just they're not ready yet. I do think Jonathan Smith's going to do a good job at Michigan State. I thought he did an awesome job at Oregon State, but they're not ready yet. It's still early, so Maryland will still be competent in the season, and then as time goes on, the wheels will fall off. But we're not there yet, so Maryland will win this one.
I love that. It's so well said because I was thinking how I was going to say that for 6 or 7 games, you're always good picking Maryland. Never pick Maryland at the end of the year. So same reason there. I'll take Maryland for all those reasons.
Yeah, Maryland's at home. Maryland looked a lot better than I thought they were even going to look, replacing their quarterback. I like Maryland there, and I think it's going to be pretty comfortable. I feel like Washington already got like the memo that Big Ten teams play MAC schools early in the year. They have Eastern Michigan at home. Corey, give me your quick thought on Washington, and then I'm assuming you're going to be taking Washington to win.
Yeah, I'll take Washington, and look, I have a lot of respect for the Washington program. They have been traditionally a pretty physical Pac-12 team, while most of the Pac-12 is not. But I don't think Washington is going to struggle as much as UCLA in the Big Ten, but I don't think we're going to see Washington be really good or outstanding every 3 or 4 years. I think it's going to be maybe once a decade, maybe twice a decade. Again, it's just a completely different story going up every week. So I'll take Washington in this one over the long. Again, folks, we're talking 30 years into this, and Penn State's won what? 4 Big Ten championships? I mean, it's an eye-opening experience that Washington's going to have to learn.
Sean, you're on Washington to beat Eastern Michigan.
I am. I think Jed Fish could coach. I shouldn't say there won't be a drop-off because I think Alabama, like we were talking about the teams after 3 that could win it. Bama's very good. I still think they're going to be really good even with Kalen DeBoer. I do think long-term Jed Fish will do well, and I certainly think they beat Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, I think Washington could end up being that level of like Iowa, Minnesota, maybe a little bit less than Iowa, like that Minnesota level.
Mm-hmm.
Probably where they're going to end up.
Yeah, you're talking 8-4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Washington's 8-4 every year, is that good enough for them? How often do they need to be 10-2 to appease their fan base out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, because I think you're right. I think expectations are going to have to change a little bit. South Dakota, not South Dakota State, South Dakota at Wisconsin. Cory, you seem high on Wisconsin, so I'm assuming you're going with them. Shawn, I'm assuming you're going with Wisconsin because, well, it's South Dakota.
Yeah, I'm not picking against Wisconsin at home. I'm not so much high on them. I just think that he's a good coach. That's a tough place to go.
Yeah, Wisconsin not lose to South Dakota.
Maybe a sneaky good game that no one's thinking about. Kansas at Illinois.
Yeah.
Not a lot talked about. They played last year. It was a really fun game where they went back and forth all the way to the very end. It's at Illinois this year. Kansas obviously doesn't have Andy Kotelnicki. Cory, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is a good game because you don't always know what to expect from Illinois. When Bielema has some good linemen, they'll generally play a tough style. Look, I'm picking Kansas here. I'm going to pick Kansas, but I just want to get my thoughts on Illinois and Bielema. Just that you just never know what to expect with him. He is a really good coach. They don't always have great talent, so. Sometimes I expect Illinois to be a little better than they are. I'm going to pick Kansas, but Illinois is always a little bit of a dark horse to me.
Yeah, this is one that I had a little trouble with. I'll go Kansas. I do think they're going to have some carryover from last year's success. They looked like that game against Illinois. They were way up. Illinois ended up coming back kind of bizarrely when you think of the way brand of football Illinois plays, but they did battle back. I just think Kansas is a better team, just straight up. So I'm going to take the Jayhawks.
I'm going to go with Illinois. To the points that Cory kind of said, Brett Bielema, you never know. It's early in the season. You don't have to know much if you can just run the football and play physical. I'm going to take Illinois to win that game. I think Kansas maybe isn't as explosive as they once were. Western Michigan at Ohio State. We're all going to be on Ohio State to win that game. Cory, what are your thoughts on Will Howard? Do you think he's going to be good enough for Ohio State?
Boy, that's going to be a big, big question. He's not what we've seen in recent years, obviously, with some of these great Ohio State quarterbacks. They've got so much talent. But, Kyle McCord wasn't good enough to overcome, just being a game manager, mediocre quarterback. Ohio State's got everything it needs to win it all if he is a good quarterback. If he is a game manager, mediocre quarterback, then we'll see. So it's going to be very interesting to see his development as the year goes on.
Yeah, I do think Howard's a bit of an upgrade in, as far as running, because Kyle McCord was a complete statue and not a very good passer either. So I think he gives you another dimension, but yeah, he is the one thing that makes me cautious with Ohio State. I do think they'll be in the playoff. I think they'll be fine. Very well might be undefeated going into it, but like you said, Cory, beating those top teams, you're going to need good quarterback play. And are they going to be good enough to beat the Georgias, the Bamas of the world? That's a question.
Colorado at Nebraska. Tough game to pick, perhaps. I would love to hear a great Cory Geiger soundbite about his feelings on primetime.
I loathe him. I think he's horrible for college football. I think he's a disaster. I think he opens his mouth all the time and says stupid things. I think he makes things very, very, very difficult on his players because he puts a target on them. I think he is awful, awful for college football.
That's awesome. I assume then you're going to, at least out of principle, take Nebraska to win.
I'm taking a really, really good football coach, a terrific football coach, to be honest with you, in Matt Rule.
Young quarterback over there in Dylan Raiola as well. Looked pretty good in week one. Shawn, thoughts on this game?
Oh, I pray Nebraska wins. Yeah, I kind of hear what you're saying on Dion. I thought he was interesting at Jackson State. Understood why Colorado hired him, but God, he has been insufferable. I mean, you have to be thrilled that you never had to cover a guy like that, Cory.
You know what? I love college basketball. I never covered Bobby Knight. I covered my alma mater, Arkansas Little Rock. Wimp Sanderson was the basketball coach there. He used to be at Alabama in the 80s. Great basketball coach. And he was like Bobby Knight Jr. Let me just say this real quick because everybody knows, Franklin kind of bit my head off last year about the throwing the ball deep question. In my career, that's never happened. I always felt comfortable with James because you could ask him anything and you knew he wasn't going to bite your head off. The only coach I'd ever worked with was Wimp Sanderson back in college. That was a complete a-hole to the highest degree. You could ask him the greatest question in the history of journalism, and he'd bite your head off. So, no, I wouldn't want to deal with Deion Sanders as a media member. I think he is completely unprofessional in every way.
Yeah, I just like Phil, you're walking on eggshells around that. That'd be hard to do your job, to be honest with you.
You have to refer to the guy as a nickname. You have to call him Coach Prime.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let's go to Boise State at Oregon. Oregon just barely escaped from the Fighting Idaho Vandals last week. Boise State was a potential hot pick for some people to make the playoff. Lines right now like at 19 or so. Do you think Boise State could upset Oregon?
They can't upset them. They can maybe cover that line. It'll be interesting to see what Oregon, because they dropped from 3 to 7. As much momentum as Penn State gained, at least kind of maybe national perception-wise, maybe not in the rankings, but national perception-wise, I think Penn State gained a lot of respect. Oregon lost a lot of respect nationally when you barely beat Idaho. So I would kind of tend to believe that maybe Oregon comes out and puts a whooping on them to kind of redeem itself a little bit. But are they capable of doing that? Because Boise's always got at least some good players. So that's a big number there, I'll tell you.
And maybe Oregon's just allergic to like players from Idaho. Maybe that's
yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
I'll take the Ducks, obviously, to win. But I just, because I could totally see a world where Dan Lanning is just on these guys all week, and I think Dan Lanning's a fantastic coach, and they just go out there and beat them by 40 because they're more than capable of doing that. But how much of that from Idaho was real? Because Idaho is horrible. Idaho might have the worst.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Sean? I think we might. Cory, are you still with me?
I'm still with you. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah, you're good. We'll keep going. This happened earlier. I don't know if Sean turned his microwave on at the same time as trying to do the show. One thing I'll say about this too is Oregon's offensive line did not look very good. They literally couldn't run the ball. They had to throw the ball to win that game.
Yeah.
That's to me honestly surprisingly as good as Penn State's offensive line looked. Oregon's looked the opposite of that. So that's one thing that maybe if you're gonna justify the flipping of those kind of positions there in the AP poll,
never stopped.
He's gonna come back. This is exactly what happened last time. He's not actually with us. He's faking it with us.
And they play Ohio State and Michigan. So the rest of their schedule. Yeah, the rest of their schedule is manageable, but they've got to go to Wisconsin. They play Washington. That might be a tough game. But hey, look, that was probably an eye-opening experience for Oregon. So what do they do? Because we all know from week 1 to week 2, you can make your most improvements after you fix some of your issues.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It might just take a second for the camera to catch up.
Yep.
Cory or Sean, I don't know if you heard Cory just dropped your favorite line.
I did. One of my favorite Joe-isms.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. He's not wrong, or he wasn't wrong about it.
Utah State at USC. USC's going to win. Feels like USC has a quarterback in Miller Moss.
Yeah, I'll take USC, and they're going to have skill position guys, and Moss did look good in their opener. We'll see how the rigors of the Big Ten affect them. They're going to have skill guys, but Lincoln Riley out there, can he play a physical enough style of football? He wasn't even playing a physical enough style of football in the Pac-12, to be honest with you. So that's my concern for them in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I got SC as well. I do think I don't think Miller Moss is going to be an issue. I mean, how many Heisman Trophy winners has Lincoln Riley had? I mean, he's had a ton, but we all know the problem lies with the defense and how real was that game against LSU and how good is LSU?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big question right now.
Can I slam my hand down on the table like Brian Kelly?
Oh, yeah. God,
I did not know what you were going there for a second.
I was over your head for a second. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you think about James Franklin, who doesn't typically do like crazy, weird things like Deion Sanders, Brian Kelly slamming his hand. Don't you just want a coach that just comes out and answers questions and talks football and doesn't bring crazy attention on himself by doing silly things?
You know, the thing is, unfortunately, I think you got to be a little crazy to do this job. And there's not much wiggle room between like the good coaches and the crazy ones because they're all relatively crazy.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh's nuts. Yeah, but he's an awesome coach.
Exactly. All right, Corey. So we picked all your games. You do have one double down game to get 2 points. Here are the games, and again, you can take the spread on either of these. So you can take Oregon to cover the 19 or Boise State. You can take Nebraska to cover the 7.5 or Colorado.
Oh, that's it. I don't need to hear anything else. Nebraska, whatever the hell number you got.
Okay. I will read those out for the listeners in case they haven't made their decision yet. Maryland at MSU. Maryland's an 8-point favorite there. Iowa's a 2.5-point favorite with Iowa State coming to town. Sean, what did you fill this out yet? Which one did you go with?
I did. I went with Iowa.
That's a safe bet. If you're going to take Iowa to win, it's 3 points.
Yeah.
That's kind of my logic. Not really going out on too far a limb. I do think it'll be close, but Iowa probably wins by 4 points to a touchdown.
I don't know why I put so much stock into Maryland early, but I think Maryland covers the 8. I can
see that.
Well, like we kind of talked about earlier, like if you're going to bet on Maryland, you do it in September. So
if Matt Rule is going to get Nebraska going, not like we're ever going to see 80s and 90s Nebraska running the wishbone and just running over everybody with their giant offensive linemen, but Matt Rule knows how to coach football, winning in the trenches. Deion coaches football thinking that your quarterback and your wide receiver are going to be great no matter who you surround them with. That's just wrong. So to me, I can just see I can see Nebraska pounding Colorado in the trenches on both sides.
I agree. All right, well, let's get to the final pick, which is the Penn State Bowling Green pick. Corey, do you have a prediction for the game?
I do. 51-12 is my number. I think Penn State does a lot of things offensive. We see, keep mixing in Bo Prabula, playing some too. Spread the ball out a little bit more. I know Julian Fleming didn't have a catch, and I don't think that's a huge deal. But get everybody involved. Maybe Bowling Green gets a garbage score at some point, but I got 51-12.
Okay. And then do you have a bold prediction of some kind that you'd like to throw out there? I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Well, this is, of anything I've said here, I would hope to think that the handful of times you guys have talked to me, I'm pretty rational. I'm pretty down the middle. I don't really have a lot of crazy things that I'm going to say. But Penn State fans are not going to like this. All right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. This is going to be a big one. So I don't really think Abdul Carter is going to be some kind of superstar this year. I've not thought that at all. Not just because he only had 1 tackle and 3 penalties against West Virginia. I think Abdul Carter was a good linebacker at Penn State. He was not a great linebacker. He had 48 tackles last year. He didn't have 148 tackles, and now he's moving into a different position where he's got to learn going up against much bigger offensive tackles on every play. I think he's a really good football player. I'd rather just see him at linebacker, but maybe going to defensive end helps his NFL career more, his stock more. But all this stuff about Abdul Carter being a first-round pick, I have not seen.
Well, I optimistically and respectfully hope you're wrong.
Yeah. I hope I'm wrong too. Hey, look, I hope I'm wrong too. I started covering football, Penn State football in 2006. Paul Posluszny was a linebacker, and Sean Lee and Dan Connor. And Navarro Bowman came along later. I think Navarro Bowman is in the top 2 or 3 most underrated Penn State football players ever, if you look at what he did in the NFL. I hold Penn State linebackers to an unbelievably high standard, and 48 tackles in 13 starts is not a great linebacker. He's not Micah Parsons. So maybe he can be. Maybe he sees this or hears this, or Penn State fans rip the hell out of me for this. But I just need to see more before I'm just going to jump all in on the hype.
There we have it. We also very much agree on the Navarro Bowman take. That's one of our biggest things. Cory, thanks for coming on the show. Where can people find your show? Where can people find you on social media? And so they can yell at you later when Abdul Carter wins the Heisman for the first time as a defensive player.
My daily radio show is 4 to 5 every day in Altoona. You can do a Google search. I've got it on my Twitter feed as well. I just started a podcast with a radio buddy of mine, Joe Lodnowski from up in Oil City. He's a real good dude. It's called Straight Talk, where you get a lot of this no BS opinions kind of thing. That's going to air.
I didn't know that.
We just started it today, actually. Our first episode today. We're going to do 2 a week. We're going to do one on Tuesday, one on Thursday. And we'll see. Here's the thing. Since the thing at DK ended, I've had a lot of people approach me and say, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And basically what I want to do is not work and just relax. So I've kind of been turned down some offers, but my buddy Joe started up the podcast with me, so we'll have some fun with that.
Is that going to be strictly Penn State, or is it Steeler talk, all sorts of stuff?
Right now the plan is all Penn State, but Joe and I both talk Steelers a lot, so that could change a little bit. But I think the plan is we'll go Tuesday, Thursday on that.
Okay, good. That's good to know. We got you on at the perfect time, just when you guys are starting that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Cory Geiger, everybody, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas. I respect the hell out of you guys. Always enjoy it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
Thank you, Cory.
that.
All right.
Cory Geiger. That's awesome having him on. Probably say this about a lot of people, Sean, that we have on the show, but I don't know if anyone is more candid and straightforward than Cory Geiger.
I don't think so. That was
whether you agree with them or not, right?
Yes, that was always something I really liked about him. Always. So even before we started doing this, because as he said, he's been covering Penn State since 2006. So that's about the amount of time that I've known of and listened to him. So, yeah, you always appreciate a straight shooter.
Adisa Isaac is inactive today for the Ravens, in case you needed to know that. Drunk Piece on YouTube said Abdul will be a great defensive end, by the way. Very incorrect opinion. So go yell at Cory Geiger. Sean, you ready for predictions?
I am ready.
As I just burp into the microphone. Well, you were gone, so I think you should have to go first this week. So take it away.
Fair. That is fair. Okay. So I'll go bold prediction. Kind of ties into where I have the final score ending up. I think Penn State looks good on Saturday from an offensive perspective, as good as you could, because the weather's supposed to be crappy. I do think I still don't think they'll have much of an issue moving the ball on this team. Like we said, they gave up over 400 yards to Fordham. That doesn't really bode well for the visiting Bowling Green Bowlers. I think they're Falcons. I don't know, but Falcons. So yeah, it doesn't really bode well.
The Bowlers.
The Bowlers. Yeah. So I do think Penn State wins this one. I have them winning 55-10, and for you math people out there, that means 2 field goals or a missed extra point. I think they make 2 field goals, and I think Sanders Zahadak makes 2 of them in bad weather, and we all feel encouraged. So that's my bold prediction.
Wow, 2 field goals for Sanders Zahadak.
I think Franklin might look for ways, like there might be like a 4th and 3 mixed in there where we're probably going to get it, but he decides to send Xander out there for like a 35-yarder just to kind of get his feet wet a little bit.
Get some confidence there. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, my prediction: Penn State wins. Believe it or not, Penn
Wow.
State will win this football game. I have them winning 52-7, which would therefore be a cover. My bold prediction: Penn State scores 7 touchdowns from 7 different people. Now, obviously, if like Aller throws 3 touchdown passes, I just mean that the recipient is going to be 3 different people. But 7 different people score a touchdown. I wouldn't really be surprised if it's 4 different people with a rushing touchdown. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But I think 7 different people score a touchdown for those 7 touchdowns.
Is one of them a freshman?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Potentially, I think 2 of them will be freshmen.
Yeah. Kaiser Denmark. I know Franklin's been talking about Corey Smith too. So
I think it's
Corey Smith.
I think it's either one of Cory Smith or Quentin Martin, whoever they decide to play, because I think they're gonna whoever plays doesn't play. And I think Luke Reynolds can get on there pretty easily as well. I think if you had to choose, I think it would probably be Quentin Martin, Luke Reynolds would probably be the safest bet.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you keep hearing good things about Kaiser Denmark. I think he's a guy we might see later in the year, honestly, probably late in the game. You think about a game like maybe a Minnesota, maybe a Maryland. But I don't think you'll see a ton of him, but I do think you'll see some of him on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably against Kent State as well.
Anything else, Sean?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we went pretty long, actually, all things considered.
Yeah, solid hour and a half. Sorry, I do apologize for the technical difficulties.
I made the joke that you turn your microwave on at the same time. I was saying it's nice that it happened to you instead of me for once.
Yeah, that is true. I had some issues at work today too with my Wi-Fi, so I might reboot my router.
The old turn it off and turn it back on.
That's my plan. So,
hey,
yeah.
Thank you for everyone on YouTube. Drunk Peace was in here today. Kent was in here again. Lambda was in here. Cowboy Ribeye was in here. Really appreciate you guys being interactive in the chat. It makes things a lot easier. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. Again, we will be back Monday nights and Wednesday nights pretty much for the rest of the season. There might be some hiccups here and there. But appreciate you guys being around. Sean, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I think we are good here.
Okay. Well, for Sean Kane, I'm Cory Lestochi. Please make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to this. Make sure you do your goddamn pick'em, and we will see you on Monday. Bye, everybody.